Southern Hemisphere team of the season. These videos are always a bit of fun. Just a bit of fun. I've gone ahead and picked 23 guys who I thought were pretty bloody good from the Southern Hemisphere teams this year. As always, have a look and you guys can let me know yours once we are done. Mine's definitely going to be different from yours, and yes, that guy who you thought was definitely going to be in no matter what is possibly not in my team. And that guy I think has to be in the team is maybe not in your team. That's just the way these ones go. But hey. Start with the front row, and I have got a South African jersey on for a reason, because there's a fair bit of a South African theme to my team. Loose head, I got the Beast. Hooker, I got Malcolm Marx. And tight head is not a South African, but I have gone with Alan Alatoa. Now, usually when I do these videos, you know, I pack it heavy full of stats. I do love a good stat, but for this team, I've mostly gone with my gut. There's a little bit of stats, sometimes in the back of my head. But yeah, I'm too lazy to look up World Cup, Rugby Championship, Super Rugby, all those stats all together. That's also part of it. But, I mean, the Beast, he had one of his best seasons despite his age. He made tackles like a demon throughout both competitions that he played in terms of the Rugby Championship and the Rugby World Cup. And what a way to finish. So I've gone with the Beast. He went out on a high. Malcolm Marx. Now, a lot of people, when I picked him in my World Cup squad, said, how could you pick Malcolm Marx? He was the second choice South African hooker. He was behind Bongi and Bonambi. But I think you got to look at the way Rassie uses his bench. He doesn't use it like everybody else. He played an extra forward on the bench so that he could use his subs essentially like fresh players and like give them almost split minutes. And Malcolm actually played more minutes than Bongi across the World Cup. So despite the fact that he comes off the bench, he's got a specific role, and I don't think either is bad. I think both are very good. But I have gone with Marx. And the funny thing is, I don't think he was as good as he was last year in terms of his effectiveness, especially at the breakdown. But their line-out was amazing. His work rate was amazing. And he's just still one of the best hookers in the world. Funnily enough, his line-out throwing I thought was the one kind of chink in his armour, but he certainly corrected that this year just gone. Alan Alatoa, it's an odd pick because you don't often think tight head prop Wallaby when you're thinking one of the best in the world. But the Aussie scrum has been good, and his team, the Brumbies, are also a forward orientated team, and their line-out mauls that they set are phenomenal, and he's a big part of that. So yeah, I think he actually had a really good year. I think he might have won some domestic awards in Australia for his performances, so I think kind of credit where credit is due for that man. My backup front rowers, I have gone with Montoya as the hooker from the Jaguars, from the Pumas. Good Lord, I'm already getting that mixed up. Kitsoff and Malherba from the Box. I haven't included a single All Black in my front row. That's a travesty with Cody Taylor and the likes of some of the other guys as well. Montoya, I mean, the guy was like the third top try scorer at the World Cup for a hooker. And a team that didn't even make the knockouts. But seriously, he is class behind Krevy, and I think he will continue to be class once Krevy retires. Kitsoff, him and the Beast, they basically both played really well. Kitsoff actually became one of the more effective breakdown guys, and just the two of them in tandem mean that the opposition tight head never really gets a break. And Malherba is that guy who has only got a reputation for scrummaging, but actually his work around the park improved a lot as well. So, yep, those are my guys. Second row, I have gone... Actually, bear with me just a second. I just need to check one thing. Yeah, just had to check. But yes, Etzebeth is my guy in the second row alongside Guido Pezzi from Argentina. Again, I haven't included any All Blacks there. Retallick's had an injury throughout the year, and perhaps didn't his straps sound Whitelock's class, but I've gone with these two guys. Essentially, Etzebeth is a skills guy who is also a brute force guy. He will put fear into the hearts of the opposition. I heard he had custom made weights because he just likes to have big guns, and he is just generally a ferocious player. He's got anger issues, but he channels that into his rugby, which is a good thing. So good throughout the World Cup, throughout the year, and yeah, it's a pity to see him go abroad in France, but hey, we still will see him playing for the Springboks. Petty is less your brute force guy and more your skills guy. He is probably the best lock in terms of getting line-out steals. There are some loosies who are good at that as well, but in terms of a lock who does it, it is Petty. And in open field, he actually proves himself from time to time as well. He gets the odd clean break, and his work around the park is very good. So it's kind of nice. Like Petty usually plays with a skills guy. With a skills guy, a brute guy like Lavanini, and Etzebeth. It's probably a good match for him. You need to have that combination of a tough guy and a skills guy, but that's not to say Petty is soft, and that's not to say Etzebeth doesn't have skills, because they're both pretty good in that department. On the bench, I have put Achille Snyman. I don't think you can doubt the effectiveness of the Springboks at the World Cup, and I am trying to include this across the year, but no doubt that the World Cup is still more fresh in my mind than some of the other events, so I did have a quick look. But Snyman, he's like one of the few locks, so if you put a 10 jersey on him, you feel like he could still play. Like, he offloads like crazy, so he's another guy who's more of a skills man, but when he gets in somebody's face, he gets in their face, so he's got a kind of perfect balance of that kind of enforcer about him as well. Loose forwards, I finally got an All Black here alongside a couple of Springboks. I've gone with Peter Steph Dutoy on the blind side, I've gone with Ardie Savia on the open side, and I've gone with Dwayne Vermeulen at number 8. Peter Steph got World Player of the Year, so who am I to not include him in my team? But the guy is just a tackling machine. He's also a line-out jumper, and he's also a ruck cleaner outer, and he just does everything. I've even seen him like clear the ball from his own 22, because apparently he used to play fullback and does still have that skill set before he had a growth spurt. So he even had 4 clean breaks at the Rugby World Cup. There's a stat for you. So he's the man. And he's a great speaker as well. He's proper humble. Not that that's really a factor. Ardie Savia, it's a pity that he's out for the majority of next year, but turnover king as well, dynamic ball runner. That guy, I think, kind of came of age in this year just gone, and proved himself to be just, world class. And the fact that he started for the All Blacks was not an accident. And for Vermeulen, his work under the high ball, his carries, his turnovers. He's not a guy who's a tackling machine. He doesn't have the numbers, but he has kind of those moments. So very, very useful back row. I think a combination of dynamism, of work rate, and of just pure power. I have put Michael Hooper on the bench because although it's easy to kind of overlook the Wallabies, especially based on their World Cup, likewise the Pumas, but Hooper did have a good year, man. Like, he had almost as many runs as I think like Karevi and Korobidi at the World Cup. So the guy had turnovers. He didn't quite have his normal effectiveness at the breakdown, but tackles galore, lots of runs, very busy work. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes under a new Wallabies coach. But yeah, despite the fact that the Wallabies, as I said, don't get as much credit as perhaps they should, I thought he was alright. Still plenty of other guys I left out. The backs, and I'm not doing a split with an extra forward on the bench. I've gone with a halfback, a midfielder, and an outside back. So halfback, I have gone with Faf de Klerk. I know a lot of people don't like his box kicking, but as has been presented in a lot of the analysis, it was all very deliberate. And his shooting out of the line to put pressure on his opponents. Sometimes he missed tackles, but he sure hurried them up when he did it. So to be able to do that for nigh on 80 minutes pretty much every game takes some ticker. So I think definitely one of the best players in the world. I've put Aaron Smith as my bench player as well. Both of those guys are really class, and you could easily put Perinara there as well, because I think maybe from the bench he's potentially one of the best in the world, as opposed to being a starter. But either way, I've put Aaron Smith there to kind of give him a bit of credit too. 10, I've gone with Handré Pollard because, again, World Cup, he was the top point scorer. Controlling that they kind of rotated him in without Yankees at the Rugby Championship. Pollard was kind of your guy. He was your guy to kick points and just set up plays. He does have some bad skills, but he also has the ability to go full traditional and just drop a goal or kick a penalty. So, yeah. That guy's only like 25, so still more to come from him as well. Midfield, because I haven't picked an out-and-out replacement 10. I have gone with Samu Karevi at inside centre. And that guy, you need to look up his stats if you don't like that choice, because they are phenomenal. He's just like the number one in the Rugby Championship alone. He's virtually the number one guy for every stat, like offloads and run meters and runs and tackle busts and all that kind of stuff. Not all of them, but a lot. He is the number one guy. And he is the number one guy in that Aussie side that I think other coaches would probably have to plan their game around. Like, if you know you're playing a team which has got Samu Karevi, then you have to tinker with things and potentially not play that guy at 10 that you were thinking about playing at 10, that kind of thing. So, yeah, he is just a real threat that every other team has to worry about. Outside centre, I've gone with Anton Leonard-Brown. It may not be a popular choice, and a lot of people prefer him at 12, but either way, I've put him in. Offloads, that guy has been the man for that, for the Chiefs, for the All Blacks for quite some time. Line breaks, very dynamic player. So I've gone with kind of more of an attacking midfield there. In other areas, I've gone slightly more defensive. So that's me kind of showing my hand a bit. And reserve midfielder, South Africans won't be happy, but I've gone with Goodhue. And again, on stats alone, that guy's got some very good numbers. I will mention some of the other guys towards the end of the video, but yeah. And for the haircut, man, come on, any guy who can pull a haircut off deserves to be in the team somewhere. I kid, but his stats are very good. Anyway, outside backs, left wing, I've gone with Semi Randra. That guy is a phenomenal player. I think I had him in my team last year, but I had him at 13. At the World Cup, he was definitely most effective from the left wing. His try assists were just crazy. The guy was in everything. He is just talent personified, that man. Like, he was born to play rugby or rugby league, because he was great at that game as well. He is just amazing. It'd be hard not to put him in virtually any team. Right wing, I've put Cheslin Colby, another guy who is just amazing. The guy is small, but he's got I always say heart of a lion, because he brought down Billy Vunipola. I think it must have been in the final. Who's a much bigger man, but he still brought him down to ground. He's got a crazy sidestep. He scores tries. He gets tackle busts. Beats defenders, be it by like skill or by somehow force. The guy is, in a good way, he is a freak. He was another guy who was just born to play rugby, and thankfully he did, because he is just so good at it. It's such a pleasure to watch. And fullback, I've gone with Bowden Barrett, partly because he can cover 10 if Pollard has to go off in this team. They had him kicking a lot, which was by design to help beat the rush defence, and we did see it work sometimes. It wasn't always the right way to go, but still, Bodie at 10 was dangerous. His line breaks were always a threat. Rugby Championship, he was the number one defender beating guy. So, yeah, we'll see if the All Blacks continue with him at 15 once they get the new regime underway, or whether they go and restore him to the 10 jersey. Final player into my squad is Marika Korobiti on the bench. I could have gone with Mapimpi, to be honest, but Korobiti, I thought throughout the season, I didn't think Mapimpi was all that. He had an excellent World Cup, but I didn't think he was all that busy throughout the whole year. Whereas Korobiti, I thought, was a pretty consistent performer, and over the course of the year, he improved his defense as well, which has definitely been an area that he's been exposed a lot. So that's my team. Have I left guys out? Yes, definitely. I will go over a list of some of the ones that I would criticise myself for not including. Yato from Fiji. How could I exclude that guy? He was phenomenal, and I think missing him at times during the World Cup for Fiji was costly. Mapimpi, the guy scored South Africa's first try in the Rugby World Cup final. He was arguably the player of that tournament. How could I exclude him? I know, terrible. Diaka from that second row. I've already got 2 Springbok locks, but you could argue for having a third, because that guy is another skills guy. You could swap him with Petty, without a doubt. Trevor Inyekane. Don't give that guy any grief, because up until his injury at the World Cup, he was perhaps the leading, I think, tight head prop for the World Cup. Honestly, that guy was just dominating. I don't know what he did to suddenly spark this year, but he was so good, but then he got injured, which was unfortunate, and that guy's hilarious. David Pocock, you could say he is the best 7 in the world when he plays 7. Again, he spent a lot of the year injured. Herschel Yankees was probably the man of the Rugby Championship. You could argue for having him on the bench for impact as well. Pablo Matera, if you look at Super Rugby, he was probably maybe the player of the tournament. He was phenomenal throughout the year. Didn't quite live up to it for the rest of the year, but the guy's phenomenal. Mojano for the Pumas and for the Jaguares as well has also been excellent. Lacanio in the midfield, he seems to get overlooked a wee bit, but that guy is defensively very sound and a very good playmaker. So he's not necessarily that guy who's always going to bust things up himself, but he can when he needs to, and he's often going to set somebody else as well. Damien de Allende, that guy stepped up at the World Cup. Like the Springbok midfield, was it going to be Creel? Was it going to be, what's the guy who hit Farrell and got penalised? The name escapes me. Really still escapes me. You know the guy. Yeah, was it going to be him? Plays for the Sharks. It's going to bother me now. Okay, it'll come to me later. But yeah, essentially there were questions about the midfield for the South Africans, but yeah, they seem to get it right. And De Allende, they were both class. James O'Connor coming back for the Wallabies, I think greatly improved the side. That guy is a valuable addition. Domenico Wakaniborotu for Fiji was also excellent, especially during the World Cup. I think he played every game. Severis and George Bridge essentially displaced some more experienced All Blacks. Ben Smith wasn't getting a run. Rico Ioane wasn't getting a run because of these guys, so give them a bit of credit as well. Geronimo de la Fuente, he had some of the best tackling stats of any midfielder around. The list goes on. I will not keep naming them because I will be here for quite some time. But kind of no surprise that I've got a lot of Springboks in my team, a few Kiwis, a few Aussies, Argentinians, and one Fijian. So, yeah, that's my team. Do let me know your one, guys. Just before I finish off, because I know some people do skip to the end, I'll see if I can catch anyone out doing that. I'm going to put up a quick fake team here. And see if I get any comments about that, because I know sometimes people skip to the end and don't hear the players that I have given an honourable mention to, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, do let me know your full team in the comments, because I am always keen to have a look at people's teams in the comments, and I always find someone's team which I look at it and go, damn, I wish I'd picked that team because it's better than mine. Anyway, here's the fake team. I'm going to go with Joe Moody, Coltman and Tupou in the front row. Moody's elbow on the ground is definitely worthy of Southern Hemisphere Team of the Year. Coltman, probably the best hooker in Super Rugby for all the New Zealand team, so definitely deserves a spot. And Tupou, for his potential, I think in 4 or 8 years will be one of the best tight heads in the world, so why not just pick him now? Second row, I'm going to go with Lavanini because he is an enforcer. Unfortunate red cards at the World Cup, but still you got to put him in there. And I'm not throwing any shade at any of these guys either. This is just for a bit of a laugh. Geordie Barrett, I'm going to put in the second row. The guy is 6'5". Hear me out. 6'5". He's $1.96 if you like it in centimeters. And he's versatile. He can play fullback, he can play 10, he can play midfield, he can play on the wings. So let's try him in the second row. Forget about Scott Barrett. We'll put Geordie in there. He's got the height, he's got the versatility. Essentially, if you've got that one player who can play every position in the team, then that's a very valuable asset to have. The back row, you go Scott Barrett, because that experiment paid off real well for the All Blacks with him at 6. TJ Ioane at number 8. He was the Rugby World Cup's tackling machine. He may have given away the most yellow cards, but either way, he was a tackler. And you put Pocock at 7. He's the world's best. He may have spent most of the year injured, but you still put him in there. At number 9, you put Cheslin Colby, again for that versatility aspect. If you get sick of the box kicks from Faf de Klerk, you put Colby at 9, and he's just going to cause havoc. Bernard Foley at 10, they call him the Iceman for a reason. 12, you put Juan Cruz Malia. If you look at individual game stats from the Rugby World Cup, he only played once, and it was against USA. Best guy by far. Best guy at the World Cup. His stats in that game were just outrageous. Good Hugh at 13 for the haircut alone. You go Fukuoka on the left wing. Now, I know Japan is technically in the Northern Hemisphere, but the Sunwolves play in the Southern Hemisphere competition, and Fukuoka's played for the Sunwolves before, so we'll sneak him in there on the right wing. You put Adam Ashley Cooper out on the right wing because you do need a 35-year-old somewhere in the squad, so you might as well put him on the right wing. And Willie LaRue at fullback. He was pretty consistent for the Springboks, so I'll chuck him in there. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the team as always, and yeah, I will talk to you again soon. See you guys later. Bye.